Hi, all. In today's session, we are going to discuss about Springboard CRUD examples with JPA and MySql. So, first thing is, what is JPA? So, Java Persistent API and MySql is the database. So, MySql is the database and CRUD operations. So, these are the operations: create, read, update, delete. These are the operations we are going to perform on your database using JPA. So, first thing, what is JPA? So JPA means Java Persistent API. So when you are working with your Java applications, so you want to store the data into your database as a persistent storage. So in that scenario, so maximum we will use JPA. So nowadays everyone is using JPA. So what is JPA? So it's a specification which talks about how to store your Java objects into your database as a persistent. It provides some specifications. It's not a framework. So the famous frameworks which are implementing your JPA specifications is Hibernate and Jdbc. So why we need to have a one specification? So why these ORM tools or ORM frameworks need to follow JPA specifications? Because today you are maybe writing your code in Hibernate and tomorrow you want to migrate to Jdbc, or from Jdbc to I want to migrate to Hibernate. So if you are using some specifications like JPA, so the migration of the code will be easy with minimum changes. So that's why they came up with some specification that is called JPA. So which is a specification which talks about how to store your Java objects into your database as a persistent. So the database is relational database. It might be MySQL, Oracle, DB2, or Postgres, whatever that may be. So that is the main advantage of JPA. And it will remove our ordinary boilerplate code like writing DEO and all those things. Now, when it comes to your Springboard, so how your Springboard application is implementing persistency by using CRUD repository or JPA repository. So these are two interfaces so by which we can store your data into your database as a persistent storage. So Springboard supports Jdbc also, but if you are using Jdbc, you need to write boilerplate coding. Like you need to write a DAO layer, and the DAO layer you need to get the connection object, means by using Jdbc template, and you need to write the query, and you need to get the values from your Vivo class, and you need to insert those values into your database. So which one we need to use? Either JPA or Jdbc. So it's all depends on your project architecture. So according to your project architecture, so you need to use JPA implementation or your Jdbc implementation. So if you are using JPA, so you no need to write DAO layer like insert method. For inserting, we need to manually write some query, insert into table name values or update. So you need to write update. For delete, you need to write delete. So for get is of two types. Get a single employee, get a multiple employees. So get a single employee. Select start from employee where employee ID is 100. Or select so if I want to get list of employees, so then select employees, select start from employee table where employee age is less than 30 years. So like that, you need to write the business logic in your DAO layer. So all those boilerplate coding is removed by using CRUD repository or JPA repository. So if you look into this CRUD repository or JPA repository, so they will provide some methods like find by ID or find Uh, so I want to store my Java objects into my database as a persistent. So you can use save method. So save is a sysma. So save. So if you want to store the values into database, so use save. So how it will save? So it will save as a Java object, and I want to find a single employee, or I want to find all the employees, and I want to delete an employee. So delete or delete all. So these are the methods provided by your CRUD repository or JPA repository. Before insertion, I want to find whether a particular record is existing or not. Is existing. So these are the predefined methods provided by your CRUD repository or JPA repository. These are the interfaces. So it internally extends repository. So we'll discuss about these things. So by using this method, we will remove the boilerplate coding, means DO implementation. So now in our example, so if you look into this, so I need to write one interface which I'm working on employee module. Is so class name starts emplo emp repository. So extends another interface. So CRUD repository. So this is a repository. So we are extending into our user-defined repository. Now, according to Java principle, so inheritance. So now here I am having a child class or child interface. Here I am having a parent class and parent interface. So this is inheritance. So by the principle of inheritance, child class or child interface will get the properties of parent class or parent interface. So this is a parent interface, this is a child interface. Now, what are the methods provided by your parent interface? Save, save, like find by ID, ID, something, or find all these methods we can use in our user custom repository. So this is our custom repository. So here you can use this. So auto-write this in your controller and you can pass the controller values into your user defined repository, and this repository will store the values into database. So this is the scenario it will follows. Now, if you look at this, so now we are going to perform CRUD operations. CRUD operations. So CRUD means first is create, create. So which method we need to use? HTTP method. So we want to create a record into the database. So for that we need to use post method. So post HTTP method. And I want to read from the database. So which method we need to use in our API? So get method of HTTP we need to use. Get is of two types. If you look into this, get will get a single record or multiple records. So depend. So list of records or a single record. Now I want to perform update operation on my database. So which HTTP method I need to use? in my API. So either you can use put or patch. So this depends on your project architecture. So some people will ask you to use put, or some people will ask you to patch HTTP method. And I want to delete array, delete operation on my database. So which HTTP method I need to use in my API? Delete. So these are the things we are going to use. So if I'm using post, so I am going to post the data into my database and it will create the record. So this is my database. So here I'm having one table. In the database I'm having some table employee. So if I want to insert a record, so now inserting means create a record. So post the data. Now if a record is created, that status code is 201. HTTP status code will be 201. Get. So in this scenario, you are getting the data from the database to your application. So here, if I'm using get will be two types. So single record or multiple records. If I'm using select start from EMP where EMP ID is equal to 101. So you will get a single record. So only one record. And I want select start from employees where age is less than 30 years. So in that scenario, you will get a list of records. So get will be of two types, single record or list of records. So now already record is existing in my database. I want to update. So depending on some primary key. So this is primary key. So depending on my primary key, I want to update. So which method I need to use? Put or patch. Now I want to delete a record. So we need to use delete. So these are the things. So we are going to implement by using JPA in our Springboard application. So for that you need to create. So how many classes we are going to create for that? So first I'm going to create a controller. So the controller is our EMP controller and COMT LLER controller, and second class is a model class, so which will contains private variables and public methods. So you can call as a Vivo class or a model class. So I'm calling it as model class now. And after that, I'm going to create one service layer. So service, and after that, I'm going to create one repository. So it's not a class, it's an interface. So this is the one I'm going to create. EMP repository. So which is an interface. So if you look into this is also interface and this is also interface. So your CRUD repository will provide some specific predefined methods. So apart from that, so now it's CRUD repository or JPA repository is providing some method. Apart from that, I want to get some more functionality. Then yes, your CRUD repository or JPA repository will allow you to write custom methods. As my requirement is like this, I want to get all the employees whose age is less than 30 years and whose salary is greater than 20,000. So none of these methods will support. So then we need to write a custom method. Yes. So custom methods also your CRUD repository and JPA repository will support this. So those things we'll discuss in next session. But let me work on this. And so for this, I'm going to create one project from Spring Initializer, and in the dependencies, I'm going to select web dependent. I'm going to add web dependency, and second one is dev tool for auto redeployment of your application whenever you are making some changes. JPA, and after that I'm going to use. So if I'm using JPA, so we need to store the data into database as a persistent. So we need to have some database. So I am going to use MySql. Okay. So MySql dependency. So these are the four dependencies I'm going to add to my project. So to create a project, so I'm going to use Spring Initializer. So this is the way I'm going to create a project. For my project, I'm going to add four dependencies. Now, and in the application that properties, right? So to get the connectivity to my database, so these are the configurations I'm going to use. So these are my MySQL related things, and this is JPA related thing. So we all know SQL.show means so the queries will be shown on our database, and the update means if the table is not there, it will create the table. If the table is there, it adds a record, and this is a MySQL dialect. If you are using Oracle database, use the Oracle dialect. So these are the configurations. So if you remember, so what are the basic advantages of Springboard? So readily available project, and no need to add the dependencies in the form file. And one more thing is less configurations. XML file configurations are removed. So if I want to provide some configurations related to getting the DB connections, server port, changing the server port, so all those things we will specify in application.property file. So this is the configurations we are going to provide in our application.property file. And these are the dependencies I'm going to add in the form file. So this is the JPA dependency. And if you want to work with your Spring Boot application, yes, you need to add Spring Boot Starter Web. And this is a minimum dependency to work with your Spring Boot. And here we are using JPA, right? So that's the JPA dependency and this dev tool to redeploy your application, automatically redeploying the application. And this is for your database connectivity. If you are using Oracle, please use the Oracle dependency. So I will show you how to create all those things. So this is about your form file. Now, when it comes to my Pojo class, so which will have an employee ID, employee name, address, city, and here if you look into this, so this is auto generated. That's why in my JSON I am sending only these values, and this employee ID is auto generated by your JPA. So for this, I need to specify this is an ID and its strategy is auto generated. So that annotations I need to provide on top of this property. So and after that, this is application that property file. Already we discussed because we are using MySQL. That's why I'm using MySQL Drive. And this is my local host where my application, my MySQL database server is running. And this is a schema, database schema name. And these are the username and password. And these are JPA specifications. Means if you want to store something on that console, how the query is executing, yes, we need to use this. Anyway, this and this everyone knows. Already we discussed. So let's create our project first. So let me go to here, Spring Boot Initializer. So this is an interface provided by your Spring framework. to create your Spring Boot application in a faster manner, and there won't be any mismatch in your dependency. So for that, they are providing this user interface from where you can create the project with more time. So now here I'm going to use Maven project, and the language is Java, and here I'm using the Spring Boot latest stable version, and here I need to provide group ID, artifact ID. So let me provide counter Spring Boot JPA. So this is my package name, and after that project name boot JPA DXP. So this is my project name, and I'm not using any UI, so I'm using jar, and the Java version I'm using 8. And now I need to add the dependencies. Click it here. So the minimum dependencies were added. Now next dependency is dev2. It's also added. And next is JPA. So it is also added. And now I need to add database. MySql. So see, these are the 4 dependencies I have added. So this will be added to my form file. And this is about my project related. And these are the dependencies. So now, so if you look at this, the project is created and it's downloaded. My computer downloads. So this is the one. Extract here. It's extracted. See. Now these files are not required. You can remove. This also not required. You can remove. Now if you look into your PAM file, see what are the dependencies we have added. So this is the parent version. So your Spring Boot parent, and after that this is our project related things and what's the Java version I am using. And here this is my JPA dependency, and this is my Spring Boot startup web dependency, and after that this is DevTools and MySql. So now let me copy this project into my folder, some drive. So copy, and I'm going to copy this into my E drive. Now let me import this project into my STS file, import. So Maven project, existing Maven project. So finish. So it's downloading the dependencies, whatever that we have added in the form. So those dependencies it's downloading. It will take few seconds. Now it's downloaded. So if you look at this, so the main file is added by your string initializer only. We have not added any file t now. So now let me add the controller, and after that, so what are the files we are going to add? So let me discuss one more time. So first one is controller, and second one is model class, so which will have a setter getter methods, and third one is service layer, class, and after that repository class. So assume we are working with employee service. So employee controller, employee model, employee service layer, and emp repository, which is an interface which extends CRUD repository or JPA repository. So these two also interfaces. So by using these two interfaces, so you can use either of the one. So by using these two interfaces, your Spring Boot application is able to store your Java objects into database as a persistent storage. And apart from that, in the application.property file, application.property file, right, you need to provide your database specific details like URL, username, and password. So these are database specific, and after that JPA. So query show is equal to true, query underscore show is equal to true. I'm sorry, true, not spelling mistake. And after that, we need to specify the dialect. And after that, we need to specify create or update or so for the table related things. So these are the things we are going to do now. And in my controller, so how many APIs I am going to provide? So if you look into this, in my controller, this is my database issue. This is my controller class. So how many APIs I will have? So one is for post. Already we discussed. Let me give one more time. Post to post the data which inside the record. So this is one API. And second, get. Another one is get API. So get will have two APIs. Get with one record and get with list of records. List of records. And after that, update means put or patch, delete. So these are the APIs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 APIs we are going to have. So these 5 APIs are going to perform 5 operations on your database by using CRUD repository or JPA repository. So let's start our application. Now I'm going to create. Now I'm going to write it. So this is my controller, and I'm going to write a service layer, and here I'm going to write a repository interface which will perform the operations on the database by using application.property file. So from the application.property file, it will read the DB specifications, all the specifications, and it will perform operations on that DB. So let's see that. Hope T here it was clear. So let's start our application. New class. Controller. So the package name is controller. Controller finish. Now I'm going to create one more class. New class. Model class. So finish. Now I'm going to create one more class repository. Means not class, interface. So, yeah. Repository. So emp employee repository. See, so it's an interface. So how many packages? So here we are having 4 layers. So main class, controller, and model, and repository. So your project may will have more than these layers. So if you are having something transformers, VO object, TO object, so then you will have more layers depending on your project. So this repository should extends CRUD repository. Once interface. So my system is trying CRUD repository, or you can use JPA repository. So if you look at this CRUD repository, control O. So these are the predefined methods provided by your CRUD repository. Save, find by. Before inserting, I want to verify whether an ID exists or not. Find by iterator, count. So if I'm using select star, so how many records are coming? So delete. So these are the delete. So apart from these methods, I want to have my own method. Yes, you can write your custom methods. So save. So no need to write insert into something. Boilerplate coding is everything is removed. So that is the advantage. Now if you look into here, so you are getting errors. So it is expecting your model class name. So this is so before that. So what are the attributes we are going to add into my model class? So these are the attributes. Generate the setters and getters. So I need to use source. Where is the source? Yes, here. So generate and getters and setters. So for all, I want to generate a setters and getters. No, it's generator setters and getters. No, this is a class name. And if you look at this, and here, so what is the ID? So what is the type of ID? So it's int. So int is a primitive data type. So what is the wrapper class for that? Integer. So it will expect the class name. So control shift O. Now, so how your Springboard will identify? It's a repository. So which annotation we need to use? Create repository. Repository. Sorry, I forgot to add service layer here. Okay, let it be. Now you can write one more service layer. So as of now, I am using controller and repository and model. So I forgot to add repository. Sorry, service layer. So directly I will auto override now. If you are using service layer, auto override repository here and from here to here. Now this is done. So my model is also done. Now let me go to my controller. Now I want to make this as a, so it's an ordinary class. How my Spring framework will identify? It's a controller. So REST controller. And I want to specify, like under the coding statements, I want to specify it's an API. So for that, request sorry, request mapping slash API. So if you want to add some more things, so imply something, yeah, you can add. Because according to the coding standards, you need to specify it's an API. That's why I'm using this now. Public void. So I will change the type. So add employee. So open brace and close brace. So now everything is done. So now I am going to pass these values from my postman or from my client, anyone who is going to use my application. So from the consumer. So who is the consumer now for our in our application? So postman. So these are the values I'm going to pass, and these values should be binded to my Pojo class. So how you will bind? By using request body. Use a request body. Request body. So for which one we need to move? So this is one. So whatever the values you are passing from your postman or from your client consumer who is going to use your APIs. So that values will be binded to this Pojo class by using request bar. Now I want to store these values as an object into my database as a persistent storage. So which layer is going to do that? So this is the one, right? Auto write this. Private Control and so to store the values into your database. So dot save entity. Now whatever the values are binded to this model will be stored into your database as a persistent. Now I want to make it as an API. So for that, so what is this functionality of this method? So we need to post the data, post API. Now EMP. Now if you look into this, how to access this API? So what is the endpoint to access this API? So HTTP colon, it's like running at localhost host colon 8080 slash API slash EMP. And which HTTP method I need to use? Post. And here in the body, I need to pass the JSON. So this JSON will be mapped to this model class by using the request body, and this value the object will be passed to your custom repository, means user defined repository. So if you go to that class, so which is extending CRUD repository providing some methods, predefined methods. So one of them is save. It will save these values into your database. Now, so when it comes to here, so where we need to store those values? So for that, we need to make it as an entity. So to store the values into your database and your Pojo class, you need to provide some annotations because it's going to store your entire data as an entity. So entity, and in which table you want to store? So table. So you need to provide the table name. Name is equal. What is your table name? So Springboard JPA. JPA. Okay, no. emp info. So this is table name because we are going to store the employee data. So emp info. So it will create emp underscore info if you are having two names. Now I need to specify the primary key because from our push JSON we are not providing the primary key. So this is going to auto generate. This is the ID and everything you need to use Java persistent imports. Now this is the ID. So how you are going to generate? So how you are going to generate this value? Generated. So strategy. So how you are generating? So generated value. So we are saying this is an ID and it is generated value. So how you are going to generate? Automatic. So instead it will increment the value. So now, so let me run this. So our controller is ready with one endpoint. So sorry, here we need to use auto while. I forgot to add auto while. Integrate auto while. Now, so model is ready and your repository is ready. Let's run the application. So we are getting some error. Okay, data source URLs are missing. So if you want to add some configuration, so where you need to add in your Springboard application. So in application.properties file. So let me go to that. So these are the database specifications. So here I don't want to use Springboard JPA. Though my database schema name I want to use boot JPA. So this is my database schema name. And in this, so this table is going to create. Now, let me run one more time. Springboard application. Okay, now also we got some issue. So what is the issue? Unknown database. Okay, this database is not presented in MySql. So means this database schema is not presented. So it is trying to create our table in this database schema, but it is unable to find that. So let me go to here. So show databases. So here I don't have create data. Database Springboard JPA. So let me copy it here. Okay, Springboard JPA. Okay, let me JPA. So it's created. Show databases. So this is the one Springboard JPA is created. Now hope this time it will work. Everything is there in place. So Springboard application. Yes, it's generated the table. So if you look into this, so now everything is ready. Let me go to my, now this is my postman. So what is the URL? HTTP colon localhost colon 8080 slash API slash EMP send. Okay, format file. Why you are getting format file? Because we are posting the data. We need to post the data, but we are using get. That's why we are getting format file. But this get method is also unavailable in our method, in our controller. That's why also we are getting format file. See? We are having only, if you look into our controller, we are having only post method. We are trying to get method. That's why also we are getting that. Let me post the data. So this is my JSON. So post. So how to post the data? Body, raw data, and which type of data you are going to send? JSON. Send. So sorry. Here post. I need to use post. Send. See, it's inserted one record. Okay. Let me change this code. Return. Because I'm using white, that's why it's returning one. Now, if you look into this, so I'm not restarting my server. It's automatically restarted. Why? Because we are using dev2 dependency, right? That's why. So let me insert this record one more time. See, it is auto-generated city. Okay, let it be. Address city. Okay. So if you look into this, yes, there I am using small c. Here I am using triple C. See, here now everything came. So 3 records it's created. So from we are not passing the ID. So how it is generating? Because of this. Now let me write one get method quickly, and remaining things we will look into next video. Now, let me write one method, get method. So which will return list of employees. So if you look into this, how to get control O, control O, say get. So find by ID or find by R. I am going to use find by R now. So let me go to here, go to controller. So public, for timing I'm writing white, get all, EMP. So open brace, close brace. So this is my repository. So which method I need to use? Find all. So this is a method. I forgot to add one more layer, service layer. So you leave it. So now I am using only controller and directly repository. So let me change this to, I don't want to use this list. Control Shift 4. Java list. Yes, it will ask you to typecast. Now, so what is the API? So this is ordinary method. I want to make it as an API. So here we are getting the value get request. Sorry. So which HTTP method I need to use? Get mapping. So what is mapping? EMP. So this is the post and this is the get. So now whenever I'm changing, see it's auto redefined. Let me go to my post map. Now for get, do I need to give anything? No. In the request body, get all the implies. See, we got the all the implies. Everything same name I have given. So next scenario. So in the next video, we'll see how to work with update, delete, and get a single ring. So hope this is clear. So in the next video, we'll discuss remaining things. Thank you.